This is Pet Life Radio. Let's talk pets.
Hello, you're listening to Animal Party on Pet Life Radio, and I am pleased to say I got quite a few emails from people asking me all kinds of questions, which I may not get to today, but I will get to soon, so keep them coming. One of them said, why do you name your dogs 3-syllable names? So I'm going to just knock this one out of the park. So she said, you always say that a 1-syllable name is better for naming pets because they answer quicker, and yet I hear you talking about one of your dogs, which has a 3-syllable name. So I think she's talking about Dorita, one of my dogs. And it's true. I give my dogs these names that suit them. Oftentimes when I have a puppy or a kitten, I'll give them several names. And then, after a few months, they're answering to all of them, but I figure out which one really suits them. It started as a habit because I used to register my dogs, and it's normal to register 3 names for every registered dog. So, Teddy Bear was actually Cinnamon Prancing Teddy Bear. And, would he be Prancer? Would he be Cinnamon? Would he be Manny? Would he be Sydney? Would he be, he ended up being Teddy. So this person asks me, how can you name a dog a 3-syllable name if you want it to respond quickly? And the answer is, I teach them the 1 syllable. So in the case of Dorita, she will respond to Rita, she will respond to Dorita, and she will also respond to door. So I can just yell out very quickly, door, and she'll come. I have a dog called Peachy. I can say Peach, and she'll come. Now, Peach is not as good a name, 1-syllable name, because it doesn't call well. It ends in a silent sound, a ch, which you sort of swallow. So Peachy is much easier to call. But in a pinch, I can do it. And the same for all of my dogs. All their names can be shortened to 1 syllable, and I regularly practice the 1 syllable. So they're all coming very, very quickly when I need them to. Okay, so that was just one question. Unfortunately, I can't get to the rest of your questions today because we have so much animal news and exciting things. And to start with, I'm going to give you a riddle, which I will solve by the end of the show, just so you can try and figure this out. What in your kitchen, these are 3 things in your kitchen, what do these 3 kitchen items have to do with dogs and cats? What do they have to do with pets? So the first one is a coconut oil, cornstarch, and a whisk. Okay, well, we're not going to make a pie with a dog or a cat. That's not it. So try and figure this out. Coconut oil, cornstarch, and a whisk. What do these things have in common? Now, I have one cat in the studio right now with me, Zena, and she is a talkative cat, so you might start to hear her, but that's all right. It's the Animal Party, and all animals are welcome on the Animal Party. So the news I'm talking about, I know I'm not a political show, so I'm not going to comment one way or the other, but while I'm watching this news, and in particular Minneapolis, I am noticing, after a while I started to think, wait a minute, this is really odd to me. If I was watching this in Paris or London or Canada, anywhere in Canada, any big city, and there were crowd conflicts and issues in the streets like this, I would see police dogs. Absolutely, I would. And I would also see RCMP horses if it was Canada. So I got to thinking, what is going on? Why are there no crowd protection working animals? It's just very curious. So, well, it turns out there's some big policy restrictions. And so policies in Minnesota and in St. Paul have restricted when canines can be used to apprehend suspects, explicitly forbidding them from being used for crowd control, to move groups or people or demonstrations. And that's because there were some incidents where bystanders were bitten. There were some lawsuits, and also some of the canine officers were attacked by protesters historically. So they decided to use the canines for tracking, building searches, detection of narcotics and explosives, but not crowd control. So that explains why you're not seeing any dogs. Now, why aren't we seeing horses? Okay, because horses do a great job with their mass and their size of separating. They can really do a calming down. The dogs also calm down crowds. They're very, very good at this work. But for whatever reason, they decided to defund the horses. So the Minneapolis City Council cut the mounted police unit's budget by $150,000 in 2024. But that was after they'd already previously cut it in 2020 by $230,000. So I don't know how much is left, but it's not much. So other Minnesota agencies without horse patrols include St. Paul, Duluth, University of Minnesota, and the Minneapolis Park Police. So, yikes. Now, I really think this is something we need for safe streets and places. So I just want to leave you thinking about that. We're going to go to break and come back on Animal Party Pet Life Radio. Stay tuned.
Take a bite out of your competition. Advertise your business with an ad in Pet Life Radio podcasts and radio shows. There is no other pet-related media that is as large and reaches more pet parents and pet lovers than Pet Life Radio. With over 7 million monthly listeners, Pet Life Radio podcasts are available on all major podcast platforms. And our live radio stream goes out to over 250 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, Odyssey, TuneIn, and other streaming apps. For more information on how you can advertise on the #1 pet podcast and radio network, visit PetLifeRadio.com/advertise today.
Let's Talk Pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
Hello! We're back on Animal Party Pet Life Radio. And it's gonna get cold for you. Oh yeah, it's getting cold all over the place. It's getting cold all over America. It's even gonna go down to the Florida Panhandle. Yeah. So, well, welcome to winter, everybody. Up here in Vancouver, we have been blessed with a wet, actually, last 12 days were dry. So a dry January, a fairly dry December, but a wet season, and no snow yet. There's some snow on the ski hills, of course, but where I live, I have not shoveled yet this year, so I'm feeling a little smug and a little guilty. We get our sunny days, and I'm out in the forest hiking, and it's been just exquisitely beautiful here. Frost in the morning, but sunny in the afternoon, and just lovely. But I know you all are having some problems, so here's some things you need to know. Make sure your water doesn't freeze if you've got water outside for animals. And this includes, animals you might be, bird feeders and things like that. You have to make sure everybody has water. So if you've got outdoor dogs especially, and outdoor dogs definitely need more warmth than usual. So you might need to bring them in. You might need to give them hay or straw or one of those fancy beds that uses the heat of the dog to reflect back. I mean, there's all kinds of great stuff on Amazon. But they need more. They need more protection. Now, sometimes things look protective that aren't. A great example of this is a crate-type dog kennel with an opening that's really just plastic. It's not insulated at all, but it happens to be shaped like an igloo. So people think, oh, that'd be great. That'll keep them warm outside. No, that's not made for the outside. A wood kennel would be way better. So you really got to think about this if your pets are outside. And if you're going for walks, there's going to be streets salted that you're not used to, right? Your pets have their little paws are not used to this, especially the dogs. So you got to rinse them off when you come home. Not just wipe them off, but rinse them off. Because if you don't do that, what happens is the dogs have the salt burning away on their pads or chemicals. Some streets are a combination of chemicals and salt. So they have it burning away on their pads. So they lick it. And then it not only burns their pads, but they also ingest it. So way better idea, keep a little bucket and get them to step into a bucket of water and then dry it off, and you're good to go. Another thing is, in advance of all the snow coming, if you've got a doodle or a bichon or a poodle, and you know they're going to ball up, and you know what I'm talking about. Or if you live in an area that's never had snow before, you're about to experience this. The snow gets stuck in their fur, tiny little balls, especially where they sweat, so their toes, and then their feet become little snowball feet, and then it gradually spreads up their legs, and then they can't quite move their ankle, well, their hips, and all their joints, their underarm area gets sort of matted in with snowball bunny, and they can't move. And if you've got a little Bichon running around the snow, it literally will stop moving. You'll have to pick it up and bring it inside to melt. So this is something you may want to consider grooming ahead of time. And now I'm going to come to solving our riddle of the day, because the riddle of the day is, what does the whisk, the coconut oil, and cornstarch, these three things you probably have in your kitchen, have to do with pets? Well, all three are things that I use in cold weather. What? Yes. Okay. So if you've ever seen one of these little poodles or doodles or Bichons all balled up with the little snowball eggs, if you take a whisk, like the regular kind you would, whisk eggs with, and you just kind of flick the balls, it will catch the little balls and knock them off. So when you bring your dog in, you want to clean them up, put them over like a tray, and just flick, 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 flick with a whisk, and it'll just get those off of there. Better still, before you go out, smear some coconut oil on the part, just grab it in your hand. It kind of looks like solid when it's in the jar, but you put it in your hand and it melts right away into a liquid, and it just looks like baby oil, but you smear it all over the bottom of your dog's feet and legs, whatever's going to be in the snow. Because if they lick it, it's no big deal. It's actually good for them. The same for cats. It's good for them. But the thing is, it'll stop the snow from sticking, at least for a while. So it's very helpful. And then the third thing, cornstarch, doesn't really have to do with snow, but it does have to do with pets and grooming in the kitchen. So when you have bad mats in the haunches, behind the ears, it's especially true for cats, because cats don't usually get wet. So cornstarch is a good solution for this. When you're petting your cat anyway, just grab a little bit of cornstarch in your fingers and rub it into the mat. And the cornstarch will absorb the liquid, just like it does when you add it to a sauce and it makes the sauce thicker. It will just take the oil out of that mat. And you just rub it, and then you can probably brush the mat out from the ends first and then the roots. Or maybe not. Maybe you got to do it some more, but it will definitely help you work the mats out, especially with cats. Now, the caution there is you don't do this on a dog who's about to go swimming, because if there's any cornstarch left, they're going to turn into a messy dough ball by the end. All right, so there's our riddle and our grooming tip all in one today. And we're going to go to another break and come back and talk about a little bit of disturbing news over in Australia. Stay tuned on Animal Party, Pet Life Radio.
Real people, real stories.
Our little dog developed this lymph problem. The chemotherapy lasted for 6 months, started developing more lymph nodes. So I thought I'd just try carnivore. The lymph nodes started to go down. Then I took him into the vet to have him checked out, and there was no signs at all inside.
My cat had issues that developed in his eye, and 3 months later, my veterinarian said, let's go ahead and remove the eye. I heard the carnivore on advertising, so I said, you know what? I'm going to order this product. They did the procedure. They did all the tests, and they said, I don't know what you did. This product saved his eye.
I've got a Labrador. She could hardly lift herself up off the floor. The treatment was chemotherapy. That's when I said, this could be the ticket. About 3 weeks, you could tell. She was very alert. She was going on a 5-mile walk. She is just like prime again.
Call 866-836-8735. That's 866-836-8735. Or visit carnivore.com. That's carnivora.com.
Use promo code PETLIFE at checkout for 15% off your order at carnivora.com.
Let's talk pets.
Let's talk pets
On Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
Hello, we're back on Animal Party Pet Life Radio. And I'm going to get to one more email question from you all before we end the show today, because I just love getting them. But before we do that, I do want to talk about this young lady. It's so sad. She was really young and traveling for the first time on a big trip. 19-year-old Piper James from Campbell River, which I recently visited for the first time. It's over on Vancouver Island. So a Canadian young lady, teenager. And she went to Australia, and she was a very good swimmer, by the way. But somehow she drowned. And when they autopsied her body, well, first of all, they found her dead on the beach with dingoes around her. And then they determined that the cause of death was drowning. But then they also determined that there were bites to her both before and after the drowning. So it's possible that the dingoes were attacking her and were not letting her come to shore. In fact, it's likely. And this is extremely disturbing. So the authorities there have taken measures and already humanely culled the dingoes. And when I saw pictures of the dingoes, I saw footage of them. I thought it very interesting. They look larger than I remember dingoes, which is interesting because here in Canada, the coyotes are growing bigger and bigger, mating with wolves, and creating a new breed of coy wolves, which is not something we all want, by the way. Anyway, so the dingoes look big and also a lot like Shiba Inus, which is interesting to me because Shiba Inus are a domesticated dog from Japan, but much smaller than these dingoes. But they are very primitive, just like the husky or the Malamute, the Canaan dog. They're very close to the original dogs that we humans tamed. So it's and there's been some research and studies which show that if you take any dog, even the most purebred dog, and you release it into a colony of wild dogs, it won't take very long reproducing over and over and over again to get back to the standard mutt of that country. No matter what dog you got, eventually, survival of the fittest, the best traits that suit that climate. So the dog with the ridiculously long fur is not going to survive, where the puppy's born with shorter fur will if it's a hot climate. And the opposite. If it's a cold climate and the dog doesn't have the right fur, it's not going to do well. But if it has the right fur, it's going to live longer and reproduce more and make more babies. And sure enough, before long, all the offspring end up being like the dominant breed of that area. So I find this very, very interesting and so troubling. And my heart really goes out for this young lady and her family. All right, everybody. So one more sad thing was another dog was killed by a leg hold trap. There was no signage. It was on Crown land. That's land owned by the government, so they shouldn't be putting their traps there. And it was near a really popular hot springs, Radiant Hot Springs. And the dog Moon was only 2 years old. So leg hold traps, I think they should be banned because they're so indiscriminate. But if you do use them, you gotta mark your trap line and you gotta put it where you're allowed. Otherwise, you're just gonna catch people and pets. I mean, that could have just as easily been a kid walking with that dog on their way to the hot springs. So be careful, everybody. There's no reason for this. No reason at all. All right, I want to end with a good news story, sort of mixed news. A mill was closing in a place called Crofton on Vancouver Island. And for years and years and years, they had a feral cat population. So at one point, authorities had come in and helped them, and they had, neutered and spayed them. And these cats were living out their life in this mill for decades. There were 30 cats originally. So now some of the cats are as old as 18, and most of them are between 12 and 15. And there are 12 cats left in this community of cats that lives in the mill. And the mill workers and the staff have always taken care of them and fed them. And so the current group is all spayed and neutered 10 years ago. And the mill is closing. So people were really worried, especially the workers, including one called Tawny Marcy, who's very close to the cats. And so they set about reaching out to a bunch of different societies, and they found Foster Critters Feral Cat Rescue, and they were able to raise $20,000 to deal with the bad teeth and the different things that needed doing, and to create a forever home with indoor and outdoor spaces for the 12 remaining cats of the Crofton Mill. So it's a real good, warm story. And these workers who are now not going to be going to work today and visiting the cats every day don't have to feel the guilt of wondering whatever happened to all these lovely little furry animals that made their job so much better all the time they work there. Okay, so my last question before we end the show today on Animal Party Pet Life Radio. And I do want to thank you all, everybody who's been checking out the show on YouTube. I finally figured out how to post the whole feed. So all my Animal Party Pet Life shows are now on Deb Wolf Pet Expert on YouTube for easy access. And you can subscribe, get the shows sent to you every time we release one, which is usually once a week, but sometimes more. So someone asked me, why on earth were they watching the pets of Maduro? What possible gain could there be in surveying those pets? Okay, so I thought that was a really interesting question, because when you think about it, well, okay, let's take an extreme example. A guard dog, a dog you've trained to only accept the immediate family, a dog who will not accept food from anyone else, a dog who will keep strangers away except for the immediate family. Now, there's a good reason to watch that dog, right? Because you know only the closest people to your target and your target itself are going to be dealing with this dog. But even in a case of golden retrievers and golden retrievers puppies and the cat, which is what we're talking about with Maduro, a male golden retriever and 3 puppies of that dog and a rescue cat called Hugo. Okay, so why would that be key? Well, if the person you're trying to catch is attached to their animals, they're going to be with them a lot. So watching the animals totally tells you where that person is and what they're doing. It's as simple as that. Okay, so let's end with the People's Popular Choice Award. It went to a dog called Goose. Now, why would a dog win an award like that? Well, Goose is a herding dog, a working herding dog who herds sheep. And years ago, Goose became completely blind from glaucoma. If you look at Goose looks like a medium-sized, stocky dog with pointy ears and a bit of a bushy tail, sort of a gray color. But when you look in Goose's eyes, all you see is white, completely white. Can't see a thing. And yet, Goose is still able to herd like he always did, knows every inch of the property, and works every day with a tail wagging. All right, everybody. From me, Deb Wolf, at Animal Party and Pet Life Radio. Ciao, meow. Be good to your animals.
Let's Talk Pets, every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.